All right, so in this class, we are going to review the chapter 7, which presents an overview of 20 types of interfaces and their key design and research considerations. You might wonder why there are so many different types of user interfaces. They are needed to adjust to different types of environments, people, places, and activities. And hopefully this will become clear as we go through all the interfaces one by one. It's also important to remember that some of these interfaces, particularly the ones that we will cover later, they are still in their infancy and they are not very common yet. Okay, so let me start with the oldest known type of user interface, the command line interface. It requires the user to type in commands that are typically abbreviations at the prompt symbol appearing on the computer. I'm sure you all have seen this type of interface at some point in your life. So let me show you one example. So if you go to Windows start symbol and you type command CMD, this will open the DOS operating system interface. And this interface is a command line interface. Why? Because in order to do anything here, to execute any action, you have to type certain keywords. So for example, dir is a keyword that will display all the directories that are available at this location on my computer. So if I hit enter, I'll see all the directories that are present. And then the other, another very common command here is cd, which means change directory. And if I just type cd, nothing happens. But if I type cd and I give it an input, let's suppose if I put, means I want the computer to move up a directory. But if I want to return to my directory Binish, I have to type cd again and then type the name of the directory. So these are just few examples. There are several other commands that this interface can accept. Windows operating system itself is also partly, although it's disappearing now, but it's also partly command line, meaning that it can accept some commands directly from the keyboard. So if you remember your keyboard, there are some, there's a delete button, there's an insert button. So these are actually commands as opposed to the input letters. Like for example, C and D is a letter, but delete and insert, it's a full command. So you can issue the delete command by pressing the delete button and insert command by clicking the insert button. Microsoft Office accepts these kinds of commands. So let me type something. If I want to delete something, I'm going to click on backspace, and this is an example where this particular program is acting as a command line interface. So another example of a command line interface would be interfaces that accept key combinations. So for example, if I want to save this document, this Word file, then I have to press Control S, and it's going to open up this window to help me save this file. Okay. Chrome also is a command line in the sense that if you click here, you can see that some of the commands can be achieved by pressing certain key combinations. So this is another example of a command line interface. So as you can imagine, there might be some advantages and disadvantages of the command line interface. So first, big advantage is that it's very efficient, precise, and fast. So if you want to search for something, then it's very easy to just type in a few letters and get the information that you want. Achieving the same thing by using the mouse clicks, we require so many clicks, and it can take a lot of time. So for example, if I want to display all the files at this location, then I just have to type dir. But if I'm going to use the other interface, then I'll have to open a window explorer. Maybe I'll have to say file explorer here, and then I'll have to find this location, users Binish, and if you might or might not be able to find it depending on how well you know your computer. So I know where to find it. It's basically I have to click here, and then it gives me Binish, and now I'm able to see all the files that are there. So just doing this action actually requires some clicks and some knowledge of the computer. So some of the things can be really fast, with the help of a command line interface. Another advantage of command line interface is that it's more suitable for certain types of users, particularly people who are blind or visually impaired. Such users can access the internet and email through assistive technologies such as screen readers or tactile displays, but they cannot navigate virtual worlds such as Second Life that consist mainly of visual representations and no textual representations that are required by assistive technologies. If we want people who are visually impaired to navigate this particular environment, we can give them access to a command line interface that would hear and type actions that users want to perform in the world. So in this particular case, this interface is doing two-way communication. It's telling the user what's being shown in the virtual world, and then it accepts user's command and then executes it. As you can see, in this particular case, exploring and interacting with Second Life is probably going to be slower via a command line interface. But the good thing is that visually impaired people can still experience the social nature of this environment. A disadvantage of a command line interface is that it requires a large overhead to learn a set of commands. Not everybody is very good at recalling this information. So this is one disadvantage of a command line interface. Okay, some research and design considerations. So obviously, if you want to make command line interface very easy to use, then you should make it easier for people to remember the commands that you're asking them to type in to achieve their goals. So you have to think about how you're going to make it possible. So one way to make that possible is by using the design principle of consistency, meaning that you can, for example, make the commands start with the first letter of the command itself. So for example, if you want to copy a file, then you should probably use the word copy or CP or C, or, the letter C only. So if you can make the command as close to the actual action, then people are probably going to recall that information quicker. So this is the major design principle that we have to adopt.